All right, guys. You all submitted a bunch of questions, so thank you. This is our first Ask Us Anything. So we're going to read through some of them. We'll start. James Matthews asked us, after registering for jet.com, what's the next e-commerce site you have targeted to sell on? And I handled Jet, and you've actually opened up a few new accounts, so...
So we are approved to sell on Walmart.com. It doesn't necessarily mean that we intend to sell on Walmart.com, but if a wholesale supplier that we work with were to ever kind of put it out there as necessary in order for us to be able to sell on Amazon, then we would evaluate the potential for that brand. And if the potential was such that it made sense to actually honestly try and put it onto another platform, then we would go forward with that. We do put some things on Jet, and we do have sales on Jet. They're not, not huge velocity. We're not selling lots of items on Jet. Maybe one product every day to 2 days. Would you say?
Something like that. Yeah, we had an argan oil shampoo that it's doing really well over on Jet. It did well on Amazon.
But once we got set up there and, cross-listing across platforms and using Amazon FBA to fulfill orders, it's easy enough to sell on Jet that it makes sense to just do it because we don't have to put in a lot of extra effort. And if Walmart got to be the same way, then we would do that as well. We also cross-list to eBay. And we also are approved and registered to sell on Amazon UK, which again, we haven't sent product number 1 over, and that probably has more to do with me dragging my feet than anything else.
Yeah, we've got a product we're going to send over and test. You just have to do it, and it's not easy, so it doesn't really come to the front of the priority list. James also asked us, would you want employees... Oh, and sorry, James, that's it. At this time, we're not going on any other e-commerce sites. So no Sears, no... What else is there? Rakuten. Newegg. Yeah, we're not doing any of those. So we've got our nice little cluster. It's working to help us get wholesale accounts, and we're done for a while. But he also asked, would you want employees, why or why not? We actually have 2 employees and 2 virtual assistants. One is a full-time employee, the other is a part-time employee. Why or why not? So outsourcing definitely helps. The number one thing you can outsource is shipping, listing, prepping, shipping your products to Amazon. That was our first step. This next step, we hired a guy to work full-time, and he's getting us wholesale accounts. So he's more of an account manager. Why would you not want to hire employees? So you've got prep centers that you can use if you do OA or wholesale or even private label. You don't have to have an employee to outsource listing and prepping and shipping. You can do that using a prep center. And your employees are only going to be as good as you are at leading them. And we've discovered some of our own weaknesses there, and it's been a struggle. But it can be worth it. So you just have to really weigh out, do you want to be managing a team of people? Do you want to manage even one person, or would you rather outsource to contracted services? So you just kind of need to know yourself and what your goals are. Anything to add, or is that?
Having employees will not necessarily make your life or your business easier to run. Our employees, one of them lists for us and packs and ships for us. Britni and I don't really list or pack or ship anything. And that's great because we don't want to list or pack or ship anything. But now what we have to do in order to give him the hours that he requires in order to earn a paycheck is we have to make sure that we are sourcing enough product to keep him busy. Which means if I want to take a Wednesday off, but there's nothing downstairs for him to pack and ship on Thursday, I can't take Wednesday off unless I either tell him, A, there's no work for you tomorrow, sorry, you don't get any money, or B, there's no work for you tomorrow, but go ahead and take the day off paid. We usually opt for option B because it's my fault, right, that I don't have work for him. Maybe I could train him to source, because there's some of you that are going to say that that's stupid. He should be sourcing, and sure, you're right. I completely agree. We just haven't really, and he was for a while. He did a little bit of OA sourcing for us, but he needed us around to be able to approve things and to tell him what quantities and and sure, I mean, he could probably do some of this on his own. He should be trained to source. I don't want to make it sound like that boo-hoo for us that we have to work so hard to keep him employed. When in reality, if we did more training in more different areas, he could keep himself employed, and that would be ideal. So if you are going to hire employees, try to put systems in place where they become self-sufficient. They're not just taking work off of your plate, but maybe they're paying for themselves and keeping themselves busy instead of depending on you to keep them busy.
And it's only going to be as good as you are at setting up those systems. So if there ends up being a snag or an error, it might just reflect on you. And that can be difficult because we're type A people who want to just keep moving forward, and when things get in our way, we just want to plow through them. You got to stop and take time, and it is going to cost you money, especially up front. Training, hiring, all of that is going to take your time, and it is going to take some profit out of your pocket until you get things set up. So it's not easy. It's definitely worth it if that's what you're looking for. Julie Biamonte, totally lost as to how to add a variation on an existing listing. So her example is, a shoe listed in various sizes, and she wanted to add a size that's not in the catalog. And she says the talk of parent ASINs, flat files, etc., it's just right over her head. And you know what, Julie, it's over everybody's head. I mean, it's not that adding a variation is hard. It's just tedious, and we kind of psych ourselves out, especially when we start talking about flat files. I don't have a good answer for this one on video, and the reason I'm taking this over is Mike does not add variations, and I don't do it very often. There used to be a way to do it inside of Seller Central, and I'll have to talk with my partner Arie to see if he has any answers. Right now, the only way I know how to do it to get it to stick is a flat file. And I can't explain how to do a flat file on a video.
Would you normally outsource that, or do you do it yourself?
So if it's a one-off item, I'm probably going to pass on it and just not do it. But if it's an item, say that I was going to get it wholesale, or I had the option of buying a whole bunch of them, so it would make sense to spend some time or money on the listing. I outsourced to Karen Locker. She is our account manager. We hired her services, and she does this for a lot of people. It's solutions, the number 4, ecommerce.com, or just look up Karen Locker on Facebook. But that's who I've outsourced it. We had a bunch of Shopkins flip-flops that I had picked up at Kohl's last spring maybe, and I had enough of each size that I was able to send it to her. And I don't know what she charges for non-clients, so you want to check on that. But if it's just, you just scanned it and it's the 10.5 and it's not on Amazon, and you've looked using something like RevSeller, or you've gone, I think RevSeller might be the only one that pulls up the ASINs that are out of stock. That's a tool I use a lot. If you know for sure that the ASIN is not there, and you can only get one pair, then you might just pass on it. There's plenty of other opportunities. So the other thing you want to do is just give yourself some grace. None of us are doing flat files, so don't feel like you're missing out on something. There's a lot more opportunities. So if it comes down to that, I would probably just pass on it and go find something else. John, I don't know if it's alert, probably alert. But John asked, and this is a pretty big question, how do you find what products are best to sell on Amazon?
It's a big question, and it's a basic question, because it's the first question, or at least it's one of the first questions that everybody asks, right?
It's
when they
the
get
one
into
we
this.
asked.
So So it's a basic question in that aspect, meaning it's one of the first things you thought to ask when you started selling on Amazon. It's a big question because it's a big answer. I mean, how do you find what products are best to sell on Amazon? The simple answer, the answer that was given to me when I started in 2011, was scan everything, in quotes. That's what I was told by several different people. Scan everything. Did I do that? Maybe for, an hour. I went into a store and scanned everything. And then I just realized that that's not necessarily for me. So I figured systems on how to track down the best items. Obviously, I started going to the clearance end caps and just started scanning clearance. And gosh, back in those days, I used to find a lot of health and beauty, healthcare, supplements and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't bring home that kind of stuff that much anymore. I'm sure that there's still plenty of it on the shelves at Walmart, Walgreens, whatever, that are profitable. But clearance is a great place to find what products are best to sell on Amazon. Um, Gosh, what products do I find are best to sell on Amazon personally? Well, we do a lot of wholesale sourcing now. So we find items with great ranks and we contact suppliers, manufacturers, and we try and work out deals with them. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, it's a dead end road. But every once in a while, there's a home run there. And as far as when I'm doing RA, I typically go to warehouse clubs anymore. Your Costco's, your Sam's Clubs, and just look for the best deals I can find there, so that I can still go wide, but I can go a little deeper on items. Because if I go into a Meijer or a Target, they might have. I mean, let's be honest, 10 of something in stock. Sometimes you find the right item, might have a case or two of something in stock. Usually it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items in stock. If I go to a wholesale club, I can, margins might be slimmer. I might only be making $4, $5, $6 on an item. But if I can get 100 of them and they have a really good rank, rank equals velocity, I can churn through 100 units pretty quickly. So that's how I find what products are best to sell on Amazon. She might be a little more apt to talk about OA.
And it's a big question because when I first started, I didn't really do a lot of RA, so I did more OA and wholesale. And you would just go through product after product after product, just pages and pages of them, and nothing. It was like, I don't know what people are selling. I don't know how they're making money. One of the best recommendations that I could give you is try and hook up with a couple people online. So if you're in the Facebook groups and you're in some of these threads, you start to get to know people. You start to figure out just kind of who you like talking to, who seems helpful, who seems knowledgeable. And one thing that really helped me was beginning to build these little relationships kind of behind the scenes where we would share things with each other. So Chris Green always recommends this to people when he's talking to them, like the best way to form a bolo group or to get bolos or whatever you want to call them is to give them to people. So I'm not telling you to go into like a huge group and just start sharing stuff, but behind the scenes in private messages, start talking to people. Send somebody a product that you're already selling and say, hey, I found this. I know you also do, health and beauty or retail arbitrage or whatever your sourcing method is, and share with people. And if they don't share back, move on and find other people. But you start to build kind of these relationships, and they'll start sharing back with you, and then you'll learn new brands, and then you'll learn new trends or ideas of things that are selling. And you can use tools. So if you're doing online sourcing, because there's so many places to go, I always recommend that people start with something that they know, something that they're already buying, something they at least, at a minimum, enjoy looking at, so that you're not just mind-numbingly bored, and kind of go through those things. You could use OA X-ray, you could use Scan Crush. I have not used tactical arbitrage for sourcing, but I've heard people really like that one. There's a few different sources. You can also sign up for lists. Obviously, I've got my own for clothing and shoes, Your Sourced Inventory. If you're looking at dabbling in that, or if you're new to that, I would recommend our Facebook group, YSI Sourcing Insights First. But there's a lot of different lists. If you're not looking at clothing and shoes, what was the one? Essential Daily Deals is one that we've used. And actually, we still go back through some of those old lists and find products. I just ordered off of an Essential Daily Deals from I think April or May, just yesterday. The product was still available. We sold through ours, so we actually found some replenishables. But there's lists out there to help you get started. A lot of people use them just to save time, but what they can help you with is finding new brands, finding things that are already profitable, and then you'll start to find other products that are similar. That's kind of where I would go with it. Samuel Evans. I've been selling on FBA for almost 3 years. I've recently started selling in clothes and shoes. Congratulations, those are fun categories. What apps do you recommend and what rank is considered good for clothes? I'm currently using Scoutify. I use Scoutify. You use Profit Bandit. You've been doing more in shoes specifically.
Yeah, I'm really bad at clothing. I beat myself up. I'm not bad at it. I just haven't given myself enough of a chance to get good at it.
Yeah, there's other products.
Yeah, there's a lot of other
There's
products.
a lot of stuff out there.
I spend a few minutes in a store looking at clothes, and I psych myself out. They drive me a little crazy, and I just say forget it, and I look elsewhere. But this is more her question. So.
Yeah. So as far as apps, I don't do a ton on mobile. I'm usually behind my laptop. So number one is RevSeller. If you're not using RevSeller, just go get it. It's like $100 a year. Just go get it. The simplest thing that it does is right in the top of the listing, the rank is there, the net payout is there, so you don't have to click back and forth over to, what was that, FBA calculator. You don't have to scroll down and get the rank. It's just right there, front and center. It seems minor, but every second counts when you're trying to get through products. The other thing it does is it actually has a little variation viewer. So if you're doing clothing and shoes, you know how painful it is to go through variations. That'll give you a drop-down box with every ASIN. It'll tell you what it's selling for, it'll tell you how many people are selling it, and it'll give you the out-of-stock ASINs. So if you do find a product that isn't on the listing anymore, or a color that's gone, you might find it down in there. It'll also link to Keepa, it'll link to, I think, Camel. It'll link to a Google search. So there's a nice little link that when you click on it, it takes you over to Google or eBay and does a search for the title, so you can find similar items. That helps with sourcing. And it'll take you to the reviews, so you can actually sort just with one click of a button. You want to see all of the verified reviews, and you want them most recent. So it'll do that for you. So RevSeller, definitely get that. We use Jungle Scout just to get sales velocity on anything we're looking to purchase, especially if we're looking to purchase more volume. If I'm only picking up one or two of something in the store, I'm not worried about Jungle Scout. I use Rev ROI. That one's from Christopher Grant, and what that'll do is give you all the cashback sites, any discounted gift cards, and any coupon codes, just with the click of a button. So that makes things pretty quick. I know there's more. That's about all I can think of for right this second. And when it comes to sourcing clothing and shoes, I know I mentioned OA X-ray in the last question. I have found that Scan Crush actually produces more accurate results and breaks things apart by the child ASINs. So scancrush.com if you're looking for sourcing tools.
What rank is considered good for clothes?
That's going to really depend. Clothing's a little bit easier than shoes. So clothing, I'm known to go up to 100,000, especially on items. A lot of clothing listings, especially like kids' clothes, kids' pajamas, things like that, unless it's Carter's. It'll have like one color and then like 4 or 5 sizes. So rank is a little bit easier to gauge in clothing until you get into things like Carter's, where the rank is 500 and there's 25 different colors, and then there's, 5 to 8 different sizes, and then that rank gets a little bit harder to read. But you really just want to make sure that you're rank is sales velocity of the entire listing. So you're going to get an idea of how many units sell on that listing each month. And then you can go down through the reviews, and I use Tactical Arbitrage's variation reviewer just to see which colors or which sizes sell best. So if I know that the listing sells 25 a month, and then there's all these different variations, I might grab one of a couple sizes. But I'm probably not gonna grab 10 of any one size. So rank's a bit hard to read right there. I hope that makes sense. Brian Legree, did you hit a sales plateau around 30,000 a month, or really at any number? If so, what did you have to change to get to the next level? I don't know exactly at what number we've hit plenty of plateaus. I just don't remember at what number. And I think our first plateau was more because we were transitioning from us doing everything to having to outsource part of it so that we could do other things. And that was when we hired someone we outsourced listing, prepping, and shipping. So that was how we got over, I think well, actually the first plateau was probably me leaving my job to come. So one way to overcome a plateau is it time or is it money? You got to figure out what's causing the plateau. For us, we had access to credit cards, we had the money, we had the capital to buy what we wanted. We didn't have enough hours in the day to process everything. So for us, it was a time issue. So we had to get more time, and we bought it through an employee. You could buy it through services. You could buy it through prep centers. But that was our big plateau. And we've actually recently hit at about the $1 million a year mark.
So
we can't seem to
get
to that next level. Hey, my mom stopped by and kind of interrupted us. So we were answering Brian's question, and I think we had just talked about hitting a plateau at around $1 million. And then we looked over at the door, and my mom's
per year, not per month. I think
that's like $1 million per year. Let's be clear.
$80,000 to $81,000 a month on average, and that's a plateau we've had for a long time.
This will be our third year, and I don't think that we're going to exceed $1 million by much. We could. I have to take a look at some numbers. Maybe we'll do 1.2. Maybe we do 1 point nothing. I'm not really sure, especially with all the new restrictions that just came into place. So, we'll just have to kind of play that by ear. And you were just saying to me, before we hit record again, that it's not a bad plateau. Like, that's okay. I guess we just need to define what we want to do going forward, and you have to too. What is your goal? But yeah, everyone's hitting plateaus, and it really is probably going to come down to, is it time, is it money, is it knowledge? Are you hitting a plateau because you don't know enough information to make other decisions? So you're just going to try and figure out where that plateau is coming from. Moving on?
I don't know. There's something that I find interesting about plateaus. When you first hit that $30,000 a month, it probably felt really amazing. Like, I sold $30,000 in a month. It's great. But then 3 months later, 6 months later, 12 months later, and you're still selling $30,000 a month, all of a sudden that feeling that, oh, this is great, turns into, gosh, I'm stuck at 30,000. And we've had this conversation before where I looked at her and I was like, do you feel more or less successful now than you did 3 years ago?
Yeah.
We're making the same money today, essentially, that we made 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, it was like amazing. We felt really successful. 3 years later, in the present, I feel less successful in my business than I did 3 years ago, even though I'm still doing just as amazingly well. So while I don't necessarily think a plateau is a bad thing, it can be a good thing if you have the right state of mind. If you just realize, I'm still doing amazingly well. Um, for the time that I first felt that way. If you can maintain that attitude, I mean, maybe that would make it easier to get to the next level instead of because we are down on ourselves a little bit for not getting bigger. So maybe the answer is just to be happy with what you have, and maybe growth spurns from that.
Maybe. Mary Mickelson asks, do you source Halloween candy? And if so, is it wholesale, OA, or retail? I source no Halloween candy.
I source Halloween candy. I source Halloween candy right after Halloween is over. I'm not going to go out. I'm going to be very specific in what I buy. I don't just go out and grab all this junk because I've done it before. I've done it after Easter. Years ago, I'd go to, let's say, Walmart right after Easter was over, and everything was like 50% off, 75% off, 90% off, and I'd just buy it and buy it and buy it, and it would sell. But then you've got to like sell all the chocolate by May, and it's you can set a trap for yourself. So while I do agree that sourcing Halloween candy can be great, it can be great right now if you want to start now. It could be great after Halloween is over. Again, if you buy the right items, specific items. But traditionally, we don't holiday source for any holiday. I mean, we'll have a few items that are Christmas related. We might have a couple items that are Easter related. But we have never made that a core strategy in our business to go out and specifically prepare for an upcoming holiday.
Well, and any time that we've done it, we've made bad decisions. Buying things ahead of time before we really had enough information. In those early days on Amazon, it just seemed like everything sold. So we just bought a whole bunch of stuff because everything sells at Christmas. Well, it doesn't. We bought some bad stuff and we had to liquidate it. So we found that we are better, and this is just us, we're better when we sell more evergreen products. We'll definitely be doing a lot more toys in Q4, but we're not going to prep ahead with a lot of Christmas decorative stuff. We looked at what we sold last year, and I've just ordered more of it. And I didn't really look beyond that because there's enough evergreen products that see us through, and we're just not that good at the seasonal thing. And that's okay. That's us.
So speaking to candy specifically, my advice, and it's going to differ from a lot of other people's advice, because some people are absolutely going to kill it buying Halloween candy right now in preparation for Halloween. I'm going to wait until Halloween's over, and I'm going to buy stuff on deep discount. Again, not anything. I focus on the types of things that I see as being items that people would buy people for Christmas. So not necessarily stuff that's going to have witches all over the packaging, or but one thing I'll tell you what is candy corn and those mellow cream pumpkins. Those things, they disappear forever. Like for 10 months out of the year, you cannot get them. So
items that are very specific to a certain holiday, quote unquote limited edition. You're only going to get this during this time.
Right. There's nothing special about a Twix in the shape of a bat.
No.
Right? But there is something special about candy corn because it's extinct for the majority of the year, and I sell the crap out of it for Christmas. People buy candy corn for Christmas. And so that's one of the that's I don't know. That's just something I go out and I source every year, and I sell through all of it, and I pay $2 for a 5-pound bag of the stuff and sell them for $15.
So there you go. There's a good candy strategy. The last two questions, one is from the Chambliss family. They'd be interested in some OA coaching. We don't do coaching. We tried it, and coaching was more enjoyable for us when it was kind of spur of the moment, a little bit more, this is going to sound cliche, a little more organic. Someone reaches out to you, has a question, and you'll just jump on the phone with them. And
yeah, I'm happy
when
to
you're
talk
driving.
to somebody on the phone from time to time. If anybody ever wants to just get on the phone with me and have a conversation, I like talking about my business. So
message
him.
him.
I like talking about your business.
If you can't find him on Facebook, comment on this video, reach out to us, email us through our website, mikeandbritniross.com. But we don't do any official coaching. We did it. it wasn't enjoyable. It just didn't feel like the right business for us. So we're not doing it. But yeah, if there's ever just a question or a topic you want to talk about, just reach out to us, and you might end up getting one of us on the phone, just depending on the day. And Michael Lively has a lot. He wrote a big paragraph. So Mike, thank you. And I'll be addressing this one personally. But his was more specifically related to the sourcing group that I run. And I don't want this whole thing to turn into a big, commercial for your sourced inventory. So if you're interested in clothing and shoes, I'll keep this very brief. Go to yoursourcedinventory.com. The Facebook group is all about education. We're going to teach you everything you need to know. You can ask questions, and we're going to post some leads in there. If you're already pretty good at clothing and shoes and you're just looking for leads, we have the daily email list. And if you're not sure about either of those, check out Your Sourced Inventory on Facebook. But Mike, I will be reaching out to you and answering your questions in a little more detail. Don't want this to turn into some big long commercial where people tune out. So, but that was what his question was about. I think that's it.
Well, that's all I have.
That's all we've got. That's all we've got. So we'll do another one of these probably another 4 to 6 weeks. Feel free always. You can post comments, questions down in the comments. You can reach out to us on our website, ask questions. If the question is personal, we'll answer it privately. But if it's something we think would help the community, we might just turn it into a video and address it that way. But thank you all for submitting the questions. Thanks for watching this video. Sorry about the interruption, but when you work from home, family stops by and visits. So, see you later.
Slayer.